what is it about the profession of soccer, going through kind of the childhood years, entering, into elementary, middle school? Do you kind of feel the squeeze of the competition getting harder and harder, or does it feel like you're becoming stronger as you? Because obviously you're growing up and becoming stronger at something. Because one of the things I find is fascinating is when you talk to people who are in sports, when they see people play like these soccer games, they have a better understanding of what it feels like to be doing these moves, and like how is like Messi doing this? Like how is like
it's definitely a little bit of both. Like there's as you're when you're younger, I think if you're good, like naturally gifted, you definitely stand out. It's as you get older, it's like it's a little bit of both. The competition gets stronger and you get better, but it's the race of like who's better gets really tight. Unless you're like I said, like a Messi or a Cristiano Ronaldo, you really have to stand out to be noticed. So I think up until like pretty much until I got to high school, I was always like not the best player, but I was definitely in the top. Like in all the leagues I played, I was always selected to be like one of the all-stars of the league and stuff like that. I was always a starter. I was never on the bench. And it wasn't until I got to high school to where it was like the brakes got pumped a little bit, and it was like, oh, dang, now I really have to work hard. Because freshman year, I was still a starter. Sophomore year, I was a starter. But then junior year, I finally got benched on varsity, and I was like, whoa, like this is the first time I've ever not been a starter on any team that I've ever been on. It was really different. It was different to not play every game like I was so used to doing.
I think that sometimes especially when you get older, someone told me this, like the more money, more problems, right?
Yeah.
But like there's something about high school where like you enter this world where now like your friends and you're the kind of like your relationships that you have, like girls and stuff, and school, like you're now having to prepare for like this next level if you choose to go to college, or like what are you gonna do to make money, and like most people can start driving at this time. Right. There's so many things that happen at this time where you just kind of just like you kind of don't have, like when you're a child you have a one-track mind kind of, right? But when you get to like high school, you kind of you have to change.
Yeah, there's so many things that come at you kind of all at once. Like we said, like driving, just some kids have to start working. Sports get more intense. It takes up more of your time. Your schoolwork takes up more of your time. And then I think you're finding yourself too. You're starting to explore all these different avenues of what you want to do in life, what possibilities there are. I think you start finding all your interests. And then I think especially with us in the age of technology that we grew up in, we're all on our phones. There's video games and YouTube and all. There's so much information hitting you at once that it can.
Do you know anything specifically that was kind of that kind of threw you off the game and took you into the bench when you were junior year, senior year?
I don't think there was anything. I think one thing, it didn't kind of throw me to the bench, but this was kind of like it just I think it was kind of just like wrong moment for me, like wrong place, wrong time. Sophomore year, I was actually training with the varsity team, so I was supposed to. I don't think I was gonna be a starter. But I was going to be on varsity as a sophomore. I was like, that's awesome. I don't mind that. And then out of nowhere, one of the other players, like who had not been training, he was a varsity the year before. He hadn't been he hadn't even tried out or anything, but everyone knew who he was. For whatever reason, he just wasn't showing up. Like halfway through preseason, he finally showed up. And he essentially put him right onto varsity, and they bumped me down to JV.
Yo.
So that kind of like, it's like the politics. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone like was like, man, this is a great player. So they kind of like, they just bumped me down. I was still a starter on sophomore for JV my sophomore year, which is fine. But it's kind of it just kind of sucked getting that bump down. And then so I kind of think that carried over into my junior year, which I was essentially the second in line. But like I said, I think I don't know. I think there were instances where I could have been the starter.
Sure.
I think the coach at the time, I still talk to him to this day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not as much. But I talk to him every now and then. I think there were instances where I feel like, I don't think he liked me very much.
No, sure.
And I just don't. I don't think he was the best coach
Sure.
for us. I tell people, like, there's those coaches that are really harsh on you and stuff like that, but they make you want to be better. I feel like sometimes the things he would say to us, it was like, instead of trying to build us up, it was more of just like, I'm gonna break you guys down. I'm not gonna help you get back up. So there's just small stuff like that.
Yeah, like what's it called? You gotta pick yourself by your bootstraps type of thing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
I'm gonna kick you down. Now pick yourself back.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's like he would kick us down, and then I think he would keep his foot on our necks, so we couldn't get back up. So, but like I said, I don't think there was any. I think it just kind of came down to a seniority thing as far as not being a starter. The guy in front of me was a senior, I was a junior, so it was just a seniority thing in my mind. Which again, even with that on the other teams I played, because I still played like club and stuff like that outside of school.
Sure.
I was still the starter.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I kind of did affect me in a way though was, I feel like no matter where I wasn't liked for whatever reason, as far as like being not maybe not
in
as
this world, you mean?
Yeah. And the team I was on, maybe not as a person per se, but just as like a player, I guess. Like when I joined the club team that I was playing with, when I was like 15, 16 years old, I kind of came out of nowhere. They saw me playing on another team. They hit me up. They're like, "Hey, we want you to try out for our team." Tried out, and the starting goalie for that team at the time on the under 17 squad, I actually beat him out for the spot to be the starter for that team, and they actually moved him down to the age group under us. And I think a lot of people did not like that. A lot of people that were on that squad for a couple years didn't like that, kind of like this outsider just kicked this guy and beat him for a spot. So I feel like a lot of that like they didn't like me very much, like for like the couple years that I was there. I just didn't feel like
you were a part.
Yeah, I was a part. I felt very kind of left out in a way. So that kind of definitely affected more. It was more of a mental thing. Definitely.
Because it seems like I think that's kind of where the soccer kind of ended, right? After high school, I imagine.
Yeah. Once I graduated, I played maybe like at least competitively. It was kind of after that where I was like the dream of going pro essentially kind of started fading quicker than it had been. And then I just never got there. I think the biggest incident that kind of led me to like stop is I remember when I was on that team, we had scouts from like pro teams come check us out and stuff like that. There was one from a team, Chivas USA. He was kind of watching us for a couple weeks, watching me specifically. And this was at my height. I mean, I was super in shape. I was looking good. I was like playing the best I'd ever been playing. And I think one day finally they told, I guess my coach was like, "Hey, he wants to talk to you." I was like, "Cool." Let's go up to him, starts talking to me. And then I honestly can't even remember 99% of the things he said to me. The one thing that always stuck to me, and it still sticks to me, is he told me, he's like, "Hey, lose 20 more pounds and then come talk to me." And it just like, what? Like I kind of had this face on of like, are you serious? Like, I'm skinny as heck. Like I'm in super good shape, and you want me to lose 20 more pounds to, and I think instead of taking it as like a motivation, it just like kind of killed my motivation at that point. So it was like, that was a real kicker for me to, in terms of like wanting to keep playing instead of like working harder.
Sure.
I kind of feel like I just plateaued at that point.
So where's the direction now? Were you kind of more like, all right, let me go to, because one of the things that was interesting is that work obviously is a big thing you have to kind of figure out after you get to high school.
Yeah.
Did you have any like professions that you wanted to get into when you were a kid versus now or after when you get to that high school level?
Well, I mean, as a kid, like soccer, that was a big thing.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's such a huge, it's so like redundant, but it was such a big part.
No, I imagine. That. Yeah, no.
So as far as like a profession, when I was maybe like I said, up until like middle school, high school, that was like that was it. There was no other thought. There was no other. I want to be a fireman or a doctor or whatever. It was like, this is my one goal, and I'm gonna reach it.
Yeah.
But once there was all sports in general though. Like I was a big fan of like I remember I got hurt my senior year. I dislocated my shoulder, so I couldn't
Yo.
play for half the season. So I was always going to I had to go, do therapy and recovery, and I would go to the training with Oscar,
Mm-hmm.
and he would help me. He had like a bunch of exercises that I had to do and stuff to help me recover, and I was like, oh, this is cool, like physical therapies type stuff.
Okay.
So that's kind of one thing that if it didn't work out, I always thought of like, oh, I could do that, like kinesiology, exercise science, any just things involved in sports. So that was kind of one thing. It never worked out. I never did it. But that was kind of one thing where that was like kind of one alternative where I was like, if I don't do this, I could, I would definitely be interested in doing that.
It feels like that, and I'm gonna like kind of assume. So let me know if I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
It feels like that graduation that day was kind of where like, kind of things really changed.
Oh, 100%. It was a huge like just gut punch.
Yeah.
Big, because that was. Yeah, I don't know.
It was like it literally the book closed, like the chapter.
Yeah,
was like,
it
all right.
really did, and it definitely changed. Like, it just affected everything. Like my academics, my mental state, just everything in my life. I wouldn't say I got depressed,
Sure.
but I definitely was not this chipper guy that I was
Sure.
before. It definitely kind of put me in this this dark mood that it took a while for me to get out of. But yeah, I would definitely say that's kind of where things started going downhill, like academically, sports wise, even like friends wise, stuff like that. A lot of things went south. I still kept playing soccer, but it was definitely not at the level that I had aspired.
Kind of like
to.
going through the movements or
Yeah.
emotions, kind of like,
Yeah.
hey, I do this, I've always done it, so let's keep doing it. But I guess someone say passion, but like the drive essentially seems like
Yeah.
it's just kind of like
I still had a
you're
passion
cruising.
for the
Yeah,
sport
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. That's something that will never go away.
Sure,
But
sure.
it was more of just the doing of it, the actual like action of playing and working hard and stuff like that. It kind of just went down the hill after that.
And I know the middle is where I think I kind of know where you're at now,
Yeah.
which is really exciting where you're at right now.
Yeah.
I'm so curious how you get from where you are at this like really just like grandfather's passed, sports, you're not getting the kind of the respect. You're obviously injured during this time as well, and you kind of you have to figure out where route you want to go.
Yeah.
What does this kind of next 5-10 years look like? What is what's the next step here?
I mean, there's a lot of things I remember. A lot of it is a blur, though. It
Sure.
feels like it's just like I think like my birthday just passed in September, and I was like, I'm like, oh, I'm 29 now. Like, how am I? How am I a year away from 30 when I was like just 18 just a few years ago?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I went to college. I went to Chaffee. I didn't do well academically.
Sure.
I dropped out after like 2.5, 3 years, and I never even finished my GEs really. Like I said, I just didn't care. Things were just like, I was just like, I don't care about this. I don't care about that. It was whatever to me. I stopped. I still kept playing soccer, but I wasn't playing competitively. I was kind of more doing like Sunday league stuff like that, just like random teams on the weekend and stuff like that. I stopped working out. I still hang out, and then like as far as like work wise, I was just kind of doing odd jobs here and there.
Sure.
I worked for like this party rental company for a couple of years. I worked at Sears for a little bit.
Yo,
Yeah.
Sears?
Yeah, the one right by Victoria Gardens.
Yo, that was the spot. Yo, so sad that Sears went out of business,
Yeah,
man.
it was
They don't
crazy.
know. Sears was legit.
All of us who worked there, because I worked in the back room, we were all surprised because when I started working there, this was maybe 2014,
Right.
2015 when I started working there, and there was already talks about that time like, oh, like this, it's gonna close in a few months, like we're gonna close it, and then we all left, and then when it actually closed, we're like, how did Sears last that long when it's been talk about them closing for years. One thing I did do that I kind of re-excited that kind of little passion that I have in sports was I actually became a coach.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So like for a couple years after high school, maybe for like 4 or 5 years out of high school, And part of it was actually for Etowanda.
Oh, really?
Not like officially in an official capacity, like during the school year and stuff like that, but over the summer for like summer camp, the coach had me come out and train the goalies who were trying out for the team.
Yeah.
So he had me do that, and he actually paid me for it. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I did that for summer for like 2-3 summers.
And what was that kind of experience working with you being the coach now? Because you mentioned earlier, like you understand, and obviously this is the same coach that.
Yeah.
And so obviously I take it you're trying to do a different approach, but being a coach, like, is there?
It's so different. It's different from being a player. 100%. You have to. I mean, a lot of the knowledge I took was from being a player, because at the time I still was a player. I'm still playing, but it's just a different mindset, and it's I didn't realize how different it is having someone or knowing how to do something like as a skill in soccer, and then having to explain it to someone so they can learn it. It's so different. Like, I'm still a kid at this point.
Sure,
These other kids, they're only like 3 years younger than me, but they're looking up to me as this authority figure now. And it's such a weird dynamic having, because, in high school you're 17 and you could have a 14-year-old on your team. Your teammates,
right?
Still, but now it's like I'm only 3 years older than you still, but now I'm your authority figure. You have to listen to what I'm telling you to do, even though realistically we're both teenagers.
Right.
So it was definitely different. It was fun though, getting to kind of seeing them learn and do all the things. I would have them, do drills and stuff like that to, and give them instruction on bad things that they were doing to help them improve.
Sure.
And it was cool to watch that, because it was kind of seeing me. I was kind of like watching myself. I'm like, dang, like this was me.
Yeah.
This is, and it still is me in a way. It was just so cool to see them, learning and going through the motions just like I was doing just a few years ago. So it was a definitely completely surreal moment. And then I was also coaching in Rialto. There's a school called Bloomington Christian Schools.
Okay.
And I became their assistant / goalie coach, like officially, like I was working for the school. And that was actually really cool, because the head coach was actually the dad of one of the kids that I grew up playing soccer with. So I already knew him and like the kind of person he was. So it made it very easy to work together.
It's so cool how this connection of soccer is giving you opportunities.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how like these things happen where I don't think people really recognize like just how, mastering a profession, how hard that is.
Yeah.
But even if the they kind of shoot for the moon, land on the, shoot for Saturn, land on the moon type of thing, like you have this thing what ends up happening is where you build these connections that can just plant these seeds that will some way grow and sprout to something in the future. And it's not kind of crazy that the soccer journey has given you all these other chances and opportunities to meet and connect and be able to
and a lot of the people I still know to this day, a lot of them are through that. Like I still know him today, like the coach. I still talk to him. They live in Rialto. He owns like a computer shop like 5 minutes away from my house. I still know his two sons. I don't talk to them as often, but I still know them. And yeah, like I said, and it was cool just because, like, same thing. I was coaching a high school team, and I'm only like 18, 19 years old. So these kids are looking at me like I said, this authority figure. And he gave me a lot of power, like for being so close in age to them. And, he was, he had been in the sport for, I don't know, at least 25, 30 years at this point. That's how long he was in it. And I've only been in the sport. I mean, I'm 19, maybe 10 years that I've been, 10, 15 years that I've been playing. So he's clearly, knowledgeable, but he would give me so much control over like the practices and what to do and stuff like that. And like strategy wise. So
you kind of wish school was like that, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. let me choose what I want to do instead of you telling me what to do. But yeah, it was so much fun getting that. Like I said, that kind of helped me kind of get on that little dark hole I felt like I was in after graduation from high school. And it kind of kept my spirits high of like I still get, even though I'm not playing at the level that I want to, I'm still involved in it in a certain capacity.
That's awesome. I think that there's certain people in your life that makes a change and really helps you kind of like, we call it the second wind,
Yeah.
get in the second wind and just be able to kind of continue pushing on.
Yeah.
And it's dope that you have, not the best, but one not the best coach, but one that seems like a really cool coach that really,
Yeah,
that
he
gave you
was.
the opportunity to kind of find your own.